皆様へ大事なご報告があります。
この度、私たち道元と
カレンは
一緒に日本語の動画コンテンツを作ることにしました。
釣りタイトルを使ってしまい申し訳ありません。
Okay. Hey everyone, Dogen here. Today is a very happy day for me. This is going to be a long video full of big announcements, the biggest announcements I've made since starting YouTube almost 10 years ago at this point. And I think the best way to contextualize these announcements is to give the backstory. So that's what I'm going to try and do now. I've been teaching pitch accent and pronunciation for about 8 or 9 years at this point. And maybe a year or so into that, people started asking me, Dogen, do you ever think you would cover other aspects of Japanese? Do you ever think you would teach grammar or vocab? And while I'm always flattered when people ask me this, it's something I haven't done for two main reasons. One, I don't want to rush teaching, and between YouTube and Patreon and accounting and trying to take care of my kids and my wife, it's just something I haven't really had time for. But the main reason that I haven't taught these other aspects of Japanese, also the reason that I use native recordings on Patreon, is because when it comes to grammar and vocab in particular, I think that the best way to learn these is through native input, ideally with a lot of repetition. If I were to teach Japanese grammar or vocab in English or in non-native Japanese, well, that doesn't really align with those principles. But about 2.5 years ago, a small video production team based in Hiroshima reached out to me. They had been viewers and also patrons. They had seen some of the comments I had made about this, and they said, what about this? What if rather than you being the presenter, the teacher on camera, what if you were the director? What if you got to choose what the series looked like? You could choose the Japanese teacher. You could choose what it sounded like. You could direct us in creating your ideal introduction to Japanese grammar and vocab course. And when I heard that, I thought, this could actually work. A native Japanese speaker teaching Japanese in Japanese through comedy. But there are a lot of already really good resources out there. There's 100 different resources, whether that's YouTube channels or textbooks or free online guides that teach Japanese. Beyond comedy, what could we do to differentiate ourselves to offer value in this particular market? Good lighting, good sound, engaging presenter, a warm, distinctly Japanese vibe. Again, engaging examples, teaching through comedy. And the longer the list got, the more that I realized everything kind of fell into one category, which is watchability. We did a lot of market research before we really got started with this project because we wanted to make something really good. And the statistic that we kept coming back to that also reflected our own experiences is that the overwhelming majority of people, when they buy an online course or even a physical resource, they end up going through the first 3 or 4 lessons in the first week or so, and then 90% of people stop right there. Going through the course ends up becoming a chore. Maybe the presenter doesn't have a lot of energy, or maybe they go off on too many tangents and it feels like there's no structure, or maybe the color palette is a little weird, or there's an audio hiss throughout the whole series. And I think this is why so many Japanese learners want to learn Japanese through anime. If you sit down with a textbook and study for an hour a day and listen to those included native recordings, you can learn a lot of Japanese in a short period of time. But for a lot of people, sitting down and studying, it feels like grinding. That's a short road with a lot of speed bumps, and those speed bumps make that road feel longer than it actually is. That's why people end up stopping along that road just a little ways in, versus learning Japanese through Vinland Saga or Chi. That's a lot longer road, but it's infinitely drivable. It's so enjoyable. You're not learning nearly as fast, but you're more likely to actually get to the end of that road. So this, watchability, user end experience, became one of our guiding principles. We decided that we wanted to teach the same things with less friction. We wanted to make a Japanese learning resource that didn't feel like a Japanese learning resource. And over the course of 2.5 years and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I think we accomplished that goal. We call the course Lofi Japanese, and this is what it looks like.
次に、道元さんの動画、Foreigners vs. Coffee から新しい単語を3つ勉強していきましょう。1つ目は、返事です。返事。Foreigners vs. Coffee で道元さんはこう言っていました。 あなたは英語で返事をしました。あなたは英語で返事をしました。返事はカジュアルな場でもフォーマルな場でも使われる便利な言葉です。まあそれもフラットじゃなくてフラットです。フラットですか？日本語はフラットですか？フラットです。先生。皆さん、打つって漢字見たことありますか？彼女。花。プレゼントします。どんな助詞を入れたらいいでしょうか？はい、正解です。彼女に花をプレゼントします。
So I imagine you guys have a ton of questions that I'm going to try and answer right now. First of all, who is this? So this is Kaden, and she is the presenter, the star of the series, and I could not be happier with her. That being said, I should preface this bit by saying that Kaden is not a Japanese teacher. She did not write the scripts for these lessons. That was done by Skill Hunter with guidance from me, and then those scripts were checked and revised by a full-time professional Japanese teacher, Yotsuba Ikarashi, before being further tweaked to fit kind of the lo-fi vibe that we were going for. We ended up going with Kaden, however, over a Japanese teacher because of that friction that I talked about earlier. We actually held auditions for this role. We interviewed more than 100 different people. Some of them were full-time Japanese teachers. Some of them were actors and actresses. Some of them were up-and-coming influencers, so to speak. And we found that oftentimes with the teachers, they were awesome in a classroom setting where they could kind of get dynamic feedback from their students, but they would often stiffen up when on camera. On the other hand, with many of the actors and actresses, they could get through the Dogen skits and really deliver a fantastic performance, but they would kind of get a little bit squirmy when it got to the teaching sections. Before we got Kaden's audition tape, Kaden, who until recently was doing freelance modeling work and also working as a waitress at her family's restaurant, I was starting to feel like we might not ever find the perfect person. I was starting to feel like maybe we just have to abandon this project because I can't compromise on like these 5 things. It has to be watchable, it has to be enjoyable, the presenter has to be natural on camera and free of affectations, and again, good posture, project their voice, teach, act. If they can't do all of those, then it's the same as any other Japanese video course. So when Kaden's audition tape finally arrived, I basically fell out of my chair because not only did she hit every one of those non-negotiable boxes, but then on top of that, everything looked and sounded so good straight out of camera. Again, I wanted to create a Japanese learning resource that had a warm, cozy, distinctly Japanese feeling vibe. And this audition tape that was shot at Kaden's jikka, so the Japanese traditional home that she was raised in, it matched that perfectly. The shoji, the paper doors, the big wood table in front of her, the tatami mats on the ground, and the light spilling in from the window. When I saw all of that combined with her on camera, the way that she was able to, again, hit the boxes, project her voice, speak with good posture in an articulate way, free from any affectations, I was like, we can do it. We can make this happen. So we immediately hired her, and we've been working with her for close to 2 years at this point. But what exactly is it that we're going to be doing with Kaden? Is it just going to be this Japanese grammar and vocab course that's behind a paywall? No, I'm going to talk about that at length in a second, but first I want to talk about the public free content that we're making with her, some of which is already out. So we're making 2 forms of free content with Kaden. One is the skit reads. For a long time, people have been asking, Dogen, do you think you could upload like a PDF of the script of this comedic video? I find myself like coming back to it and watching it, and I want to study Japanese this way. And that's always super flattering. I'm happy that people can learn a few more Japanese words that way, but I haven't done it because again, I want people using native Japanese for immersion. So I'm really happy to announce that Kaden is going to be doing skit reads from kind of like the Dogen classics. We're going to be making videos in which Kaden reenacts like Japanese banks or Japanese is flat or butter. These are all videos that are already out on her new YouTube channel. She delivers the skit in native Japanese with English and Japanese subtitles with furigana, so that if you don't know the kanji, you can read that as well. And we mix things up a little bit with the delivery style. So at first, she goes through the skit at a normal speaking speed. And then she gives a little bit of commentary on the topic. Oh, I didn't realize that American movie theaters were like that. Or, Yep, I've had similar experiences with the Japanese bank. So a little bit of impromptu, off-the-cuff commentary in completely normal, natural Japanese. And then she delivers the skit again at a slightly more deliberate pace so that you have a little bit more time to read the subtitles, but it's also a little bit easier to catch the Japanese that's being spoken. Then she gives a little bit more commentary before wrapping things up one final time at a normal speaking speed. So you get the comedy, you get the repetition, and you also get exposure to a little bit of completely unscripted, impromptu Japanese as well, all in like one 10 to 15 minute video. And the other kind of video that we're going to be putting out on Kaden's channel for free is going to be free talks. So I often find myself watching kind of like these Japanese street interview videos. I often kind of like dunk on the more like salacious ones, but I like the content that my friend Takashi from Japan does, in which he interviews Japanese people and he gets their opinion about modern topical topics. Like, okay, what do you think about the yen becoming so weak? And asking a young Japanese person and an old Japanese person and someone that's in their 40s. But then also, what do you think about this religion or over tourism in Tokyo or this thing that's going on in the world right now? I like to watch these videos. I like to keep myself kind of up to date and see what Japanese people are thinking. It informs my comedic videos, and it also informs the more long form content that I've been making recently as well. But every now and then with these videos, I'll find myself being like, oh, I wanted to hear the next thing that person was gonna say. Or I wonder what that person would think about this entirely different topic. And that's kind of the content that we wanna try and make with Kaden. Rather than 5 minutes for 5 different people about one topic, same topic, but kind of like a deep dive from one person. We didn't plan on making this content with Kaden. We wanted to make the grammar and vocab series and also the skit reenactments, but then when we saw Kaden's ability to speak at length in an engaging way about a variety of different topics, we were like, we should make this kind of content with her as well. It might end up being the most interesting stuff that we put out. We know that there's a lot of people out there that are learning Japanese and throughout the day find themselves thinking, I could be doing some immersion. What should I listen to? And check out Takashi from Japan, check out Nakata Atsuhiko, both fantastic channels for this, but maybe also check out Kaden's channel because it was purpose built for this, to be watched, to be one more option for people when they're brushing their teeth or folding their laundry or doing the dishes and thinking to themselves, I want to do some immersion right now, but I don't necessarily need something super high octane like Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer. I want to put something on that is practical for my Japanese studies. It has clear, everyday, natural Japanese, but is also just a pleasure to watch. That's what we made the channel for, and I think a lot of people will love it. Okay, on to the other big announcement. Separate from this public content, we are releasing Lofi Japanese, a paid Japanese course. This is Kaden reenacting certain Dogen skits and then using lines from said comedic videos to teach elementary level Japanese grammar and vocab in that same beautiful lo-fi zen aesthetic. And here is everything you need to know about the course. First things first, this course is aimed at beginners. So if you're already at an intermediate or advanced level, then it's probably not for you. It also might be a good course for people who have studied Japanese for a bit, but then maybe stopped for a couple years and want to get started again. The course itself is 30 lessons long, and each one of these lessons is about 30 minutes, although some are a little bit shorter and some are significantly longer. And in each lesson, Kaden first does a skit reenactment. So she goes through a Dogen skit first at normal speed and then at a slightly slower, more deliberate speed. And then once the skit read is over, she does a thorough breakdown of 1 grammar point and 3 key vocab points that are used in that skit. 3 vocab points may seem like nothing, but we try and do a deep dive for each one of these. For example, in one of the lessons, one of the vocab points is chotto matte. But in that explanation, we don't just cover chotto matte. We cover chotto matte, chotto matte ne, chotto matte kudasai, and shoushou omachi kudasai. It's more of a thorough deep dive breakdown and not just a simple, this is the phrase in Japanese, this is what it means in English. The skit read section of each lesson is usually no more than 5 minutes, and then the remaining 25 minutes or so is going to be dedicated to the grammar breakdown and the vocab breakdown, as well as the review at the end. In both the grammar and vocab sections, we try and use a lot of examples, but then also try and prompt the viewer to answer questions related to what's being taught. So we think the course looks and sounds great, and that a lot of people will appreciate the approach that we've taken in terms of a more thorough breakdown of each point rather than a surface level breakdown of a lot more points.
I should note, however, that we strongly recommend learners know hiragana and katakana before getting started with the course, and if you don't already know these subjects and are interested, we highly recommend Tofugu's guides to these subjects.
One of the things I've been preaching for years now is repetition, the importance of listening to the same thing over and over and over again. I think that immersion is essential, the single most important thing when it comes to building a foundation in any language, but that some of that immersion has to come in the form of repetition. Otherwise, much of what you're being exposed to goes in one ear and out the other. And this is why, rather than Kaden using 30 different Dogen skits to break down across the course 30 different grammar points, she uses 10 Dogen skits to break down 30 grammar points. So in lesson 1, Kaden first reenacts Japanese is flat, that Dogen skit. And then right after that, she uses lines from that skit to break down the e wa bi desu grammar point, as well as 3 good to know vocab terms. And then in lessons 2 and 3, she uses that same skit to teach different grammar and vocab points. And it's not until lesson 4 that a new Dogen skit is introduced. So when learners start up lesson 2, they're gonna see that same Japanese is flat skit that they saw in episode 1. But now they've learned the e wa bi desu grammar point and 3 vocab points, and they can review that as they're refamiliarizing themselves with the skit. But then we also provide timestamps at the beginning of each lesson so that for any learner that for whatever reason wants to skip the skit reenactment, they can do so and get straight into the grammar breakdown. But on repetition, as mentioned earlier, each lesson does a breakdown of 1 grammar point and then has a deep dive for 3 separate vocab points. And 3 vocab points, even with a deep dive, that's not going to be a terribly high number. Collectively, that might be 10 new vocab words per lesson. But this is actually intentional. We tried to limit the number of vocab words that we were explicitly teaching each lesson because we want the lessons themselves to turn into vocab practice. When I went to Keio University to study Japanese, I placed into the upper end of their elementary Japanese course. But even this elementary Japanese course was taught entirely in Japanese. And because of that, I ended up learning way more than what I was explicitly taught. I don't think I was ever taught the words chair or clock or chalkboard in that class. But by the end of the course, I knew them because every single day the teacher would say, "Minasan, seki ni tsuite kudasai. Tokei o mite kudasai. Kokuban o keshimasu ne." It was a little bit like Tetris. As we were being explicitly taught some things, for example, the teacher would show a picture of Japan and then say, "Nihon," there was still all these other words that the teacher was using that we had no idea what they meant. But as I'm slowly learning more words over here, I'm also learning to kind of unconsciously see the boundaries of these words and see how these words can fit together, and also even anticipate that next word. Minasan seki ni. All right, the next word is going to be tsuite kudasai. And the same thing would happen when I would watch movies on repeat and look up just a few new words a day. And I think that this is the correct approach, and again, why I wanted a Japanese course that teaches grammar and vocab to be taught in Japanese, because you can learn so much more through osmosis. When you log into the course, you're gonna see an English subbed version of every single lesson. But between that and the next lesson, there will be a non-subbed version of that lesson as well. And what we encourage learners to do, how the series is really meant to be consumed, is to watch that subbed version one time. Try and pay as much attention as possible. But after you're done with that first watch through, go to the non-subbed version of the lesson and watch or listen to that on repeat. Once you have that context from the first watch through, that frees up your mental capacity to start piecing together the things that you weren't paying attention to the first time. And then if you watch the lesson again, you won't have just that additional context, you'll also start being able to anticipate things. This is really like the compound gains of repetition-based immersion. And this is why we were so particular about watchability, about removing friction from the course, because there is tremendous power in immersion combined with repetition. But you can't get someone to watch the same thing on repeat if it's 今日は天気がいいです。今日は天気がいいです。明日は I wouldn't watch that one time, let alone 3 or 4 times in a row. But I would watch what we've created. I would watch this.
動画ではバリスタがこう言っています。あ、ちょっと待ってください。あ、ちょっと待ってください。英語を話せるスタッフを探すために、道元さんに注文を待ってもらおうとした時です。このフレーズは、ちょっと待ってくださいの3つの単語でできています。
The basic idea is 30 videos that are each about 30 minutes long. You watch the subbed version one time and you pay attention, you try and learn a lot. Then you go to the non-subbed version and you just leave it on for the rest of the day as you go about your day doing things, instead of watching random YouTube videos. We think that if you do this, in 1 month, you can learn 30 grammar points, fundamental Japanese grammar points, and 90 really important, good to know vocab points. And we think when learners watch the videos, they're going to think to themselves, wait a second, I'm actually learning more than what I was promised. I'm learning more than 1 grammar point and 3 vocab words. I'm picking up 5 vocab words or 10 vocab words. Okay, maybe I will watch this lesson a 3rd time or a 4th time.
But now I'd like to talk about the launch and pricing. So Lofi Japanese, the standard price will be $2.99, but to celebrate the release, we're launching today along with a series of live streams for $2.49. And before I get any further, let me state the obvious. You can learn everything that we're teaching for free with Take Him's Guide to Japanese, or for significantly cheaper with one of the modern popular textbooks. And if you're the kind of learner that can sit down and work through these resources, then they're the objectively better options for you because you can learn the same thing for less. We made Lofi Japanese because we think that there's a lot of people who have trouble going through these resources. You know, recently I've been really into storytelling, and as part of that journey, I got this, Screenwriting for Dummies. And I think I bought this for about $30, and it's 400 pages packed with valuable information. This is one of the best resources that I've come across for this particular subject. But between the time that I bought this resource and the time that I finished it, I had gone through James Cameron's masterclass, Aaron Sorkin's masterclass, the Duffer Brothers masterclass, Jodie Foster's masterclass, and David Mamet's masterclass, because I'm the kind of learner that does better with those kind of resources. I can get more excited about studying with a super high quality series of videos than I can with a textbook. That's what we were going for with Lofi Japanese. We're not really trying to compete with Genki or Pimsleur. You know, we think that these are fantastic resources in the same way that this is a fantastic resource. We just wanted to create something for the people that prefer the masterclass style approach. A series of super high quality videos with an engaging presenter that you can just sit back and watch. You'll also get access to 30 group live streams, which are led by Ayano Sensei, who is a full-time Japanese teacher that can answer any questions that you might think of as you go through the course. These streams are going to be done at a pace of 3 a week until one has been created for each lesson, and they will be available to watch after the fact. We think that the course itself, combined with these regular group live streams, will help anyone who wants to make learning Japanese their New Year's resolution stay on track with that goal and also create a sense of accountability. But the course also has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if for whatever reason you buy the course and you're not 100% satisfied with it, just let us know and we'll get you your money back. All right, one more thing I want to mention before wrapping up. There's currently a bunch of channels on YouTube called things like Lofi Zen, Lofi Japanese, they actually got the channel name before we did, Lofi Tokyo, Lofi Senpai, etc. And they all seem to be doing AI-generated lo-fi music. I just wanted to clarify that the only channel we have any connection with is Lofi Japanese Official, which is Kaden's YouTube channel. But that's it. There's more sample footage as well as an FAQ on the Lofi Japanese website, and 29 videos live on Kaden's public YouTube channel you can start using for immersion right now. 2.5 years in the making, it's finally done. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say about both of these resources. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, best of luck with your future studies, and I'll see you again soon. Sayonara.